First, I want to start off by saying, hi, it's me. I'm still alive and sipping breaths from the slightly open corner of that crawlspace door in your closet. Please stop masturbating so loudly. Other people live here. Second, I want to start off by saying, hey guys, girls, and NB homies, you don't have to dress up today, but you can call me Church. Welcome one and all to Church on Monday, the show where I talk at you about shit I like, and this week, I like the innumerable sequence of labor, creation, marketing, networking, and eventually misunderstanding which gave me a unique appreciation of one art asset in one DLC of one trilogy of single games, fuck the law of threes, and parody. Now, to be honest, I am trying something different this time. You can't just come back doing the same old shit. So I do have a script in front of me. First time literally ever. So if that looks like shit with me looking down and up and all that shit, I'm trying. I'm working on it. But I do think it's gonna elevate my shit a little bit. That being said, I want to start with a small set of other disclaimers. Number one, this paragraph is not a list. Disclaimers will not be numbered, and I will tell you when they're done. There are two people who will be highly disappointed in the contents of this video. One of these people is someone who has never played the entirety of the Bioshock franchise and has believed up until this statement that they are stumbling across a review of some cosmically obscure underground artist. Hey, I see you. This is not what you thought it was. Maybe we should just end this now on good terms. I don't want to hurt you, but I am frightened that you found my address and are standing in my kitchen. The other disappointed person is just some fucking asshole. Now that all of that shit's out of the way, let's move on to Now, before we start your search for my answers, let's establish who Sander Cohen is as a character and how his presentation informed my view of his artistic works. Sander Cohen is a fictional artist live-work whining in the submerged Randian city of Rapture, an objectivist dystopia which releases all morals and ethics from the backs of scientists as well as artists, but never quite as well as capitalists. I am sorry to remind you that this hellish prison of the bourgeois due at any minute to collapse under the world's weight in water is fictional. It's the biome of one of the most effective stories ever told in the medium of video games. However, the video gamey origin of this character is pretty obvious when looking at Sander Cohen's magnum opus. Immoral? Yes. Art? Now, I would honestly hate to disparage the visual game or otherwise designer who fucked my cock. Now, I would honestly hate to disparage the visual game or otherwise designer who crafted this honestly impactful virtual object. But calling this one's masterpiece places Sander Cohen squarely in the end stages of the Bob Ross to Patrick Bateman pipeline. I do believe this piece was designed to be more insane than artful, and this is the pretense first established for Sander Cohen in the series. This lunatic raving nonsensically about blood and bunnies was pretty much all we knew to be Sander Cohen for about 6 years. However, tucked in one audio diary of Fort Frolic was a small but effective allusion to the existence of a self-aware, introspective man behind the bunny mask.
I want to take the ears off, but I can't. It's my curse. It's my fucking curse. I want to take the ears off. Please, take them off. Please.
Hearing Sander scream in despair that his curse is that he can't take off the ears planted just a seed of humanity for this character. But that was all we had until November of 2013 when Burial at Sea Part 1 released. Burial at Sea takes place within Rapture. We get to experience this wonderful aquatic city before the objectivist ideas at its foundation crumbled into civil war, leaving the oh god, can you see that fucking fly? Leaving the population as psychotic, murderous mutants. We witness the uneasy acceptance of little sisters, the fascination with the mysterious slave-laboring big daddies, and the leisure offered within a thriving art district. Now, our quest here is to find and steal an invitation to Cohen's performance club thing. These white rabbit masks were only sent out to businesses either hosting or patronizing artisans. Side rant, there is no correct answer to this puzzle, and I don't mean that in the good way displayed in the actual ImSims that this company has made. Unfortunately, Irrational was so proud of their new depiction of Elizabeth that they make you go to all 3 shops every time you play this.
Out of her coffin in twilight.
There you are, you little son of a bitch.
Unless you want your game to be a walking sim, this is bad game design. Now that rant's done, I still love you, Ken. Now, standing outside of the artist's struggle, one gets the sense that we're about to meet a pretentious clerk, eager to ramble on about how the genius of Cohen has risen above the waste and squalor around him to shine enlightenment into the sunless depths. Yeah. All while knowing that Sander actually keeps a straw in his asshole to more efficiently breathe his own farts. But in winter of 2013, this scene actually caught me by surprise. And this goddamn fly on my forehead. I took a quick look at the yard, and it was all nice enough, but I was more on a mission to experience the overall art piece that was Burial at Sea Part 1. So, I followed the objective and approached the clerk. He pointed to the most well-crafted painting in the gallery and began explaining it to Elizabeth.
Interesting, isn't it? An original Sander Cohen. He calls it My Asthma.
My Asthma. This instantly caught my ear. The painting of a suffocating rabbit man made sense to me. It was utterly Cohen at a time when he could be an actual artist. It was all his established pieces placed into something that could reasonably be hung in a gallery. But to name it My Asthma? At first I chuckled. The absurdity of Sander Cohen displaying something personal and mundane was kind of funny. I had asthma as a kid, and the piece did evoke that fearful choking that can't be reasoned away but is an intrinsic part of yourself. Fuck, did I share something with this utter madman? Did he apply this simple title just to relate to me? Was this man telling the world that there is something wrong with him? That he wants to breathe as much as he wants to take the ears off? In this tiny, beautiful moment that I never expected to encounter, this actually changed the way I looked at Sander Cohen, the man. But here's the problem with that. I was wrong. As seems kind of apparent by my upload schedule, this year has been a hard one for me. In March, I moved to a new place here in Denver, which has been great actually. My roommate is awesome, and my cat loves being able to go outside in the yard. But in April, I became unemployed. That shit's rough. So, while waiting to hear back about my many interviews, I decided to play the entire Bioshock series, front to back, just for a little comfort. Now, if I find a game's story, characters, or just the soundscape really engaging, I run through it with the volume turned up and the subtitles turned off. I have played all of the Bioshock games to completion many times, so I felt safe turning on the subtitles and listening to a podcast concurrently. It was the entirety of Sad Boys, so shout out Jordan. So I was coming up on the end of my full series replay when I entered a familiar Rapturian art district. I got the mission to find an invitation mask and hurried over to the artist's struggle to once again see my favorite Sander Cohen piece. As always, I walked up to the clerk with the bad bowl cut and initiated his little art tour for my companion.
Interesting, isn't it? An original Sander Cohen.
The only new element in this scenario was the closed captioning at the bottom of the screen. He came out from behind the counter and introduced the art piece in the gallery.
He calls it My Asthma, My Asthma, My Asthma.
Miasma. That's technically the wrong pronunciation, but I want to differentiate Cohen's intent from the piece that I first experienced. I'm sorry if my pedant repellent ruined the pacing for you, but I read this one word and crumbled. I had never listened to the clerk's speech before. I never felt I needed his interpretation, but now I needed to hear what the design team actually intended this piece to mean.
Would you like me to tell you what it means?
As this Sgt. Pepper's reject explained how society was choking out the shining brilliance of Cohen, I felt a pit growing in my stomach. The text of this piece was only everything I had initially expected. It was as shallow as those plaster figures. It was a stupid misunderstanding of something as tangential as the title that had given any depth to this painting. The silly sincerity of Cohen painting an honest, horrifying depiction of his inflamed lungs, which I held onto for nearly 9 years, was nothing. It was a figment of my imagination. Let's talk about authorial intent. I am a little ashamed to say that I had never really considered the impact of a title on a work of art. We all have this intuitive feeling that there are good titles and there are bad titles, but outside of criticism, we rarely are asked to consider how something's title conveys authorial intent. There is the evergreen example of Fountain by Marcel Duchamp, but the postmodern idea that the medium is the message is difficult to meaningfully portray without slipping into the low-effort fourth wall breaks. The fictional artist of Sander Cohen truly had no intention to draw an observer's attention to the title of Miasma. Miasma is a straightforward title that explains exactly what one should feel upon viewing. This exceptional dude is a victim of society restricting his creative genius. Rote, trite, boring. However, through mountains of immensely specific context, I was instead handed a similar piece named My Asthma. This piece was personal, profound, and actually said something about what the artist had created. This piece was painful. It was the only way that he could make others feel the horror his own body put him through, and that was beautiful. That painting meant something to me. That painting gave me something as the audience and had a conversation with me, acted as art. So that's the piece I believe in. I won't let one word in the subtitles take that away from me. Sander Cohen be damned. I found something in his art that he could never paint. And so I will hold My Asthma as something meaningful. And so that's my little story about a little art piece in a little video game that I love. I hope you enjoyed hearing it. I always enjoy telling it, and I hope that the script wasn't too distracting, that it elevated my production at least a slight bit, and I promise I'm gonna get better at reading it and that looking natural. These things take time and practice, and I just got a new job, and I'm always depressed, and winter is coming, so it's hard for me to do this shit a lot, but I'm gonna start trying to do it a little more again. I've been working on some new demos, nothing that's as good as those two that I produced recently. Please go check those out. I really like them. And, I could use some support for my music efforts as well. Anyways, this was my glorious return. I hope you loved it. And as always, have a fantastic week. Hey, buddy, love you. Bye. Watch me move.